Hi, thanks for joining us for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. I'm Chris Cooper. It's still warm outside, but in about 2 months, we will have a killing frost. Today, we're going to talk about what to do to get your lawn ready for winter. Also, ponds add another dimension in the landscape, but they require maintenance too. That's just ahead on the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South.
Production funding for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South is provided by the WKNO Production Fund, the WKNO Endowment Fund, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to the Family Plot. I'm Chris Cooper. Joining me today is Booker T. Lee.
Glad to be here.
Booker is a UT Extension agent right here in Shelby County, and Mr. D is with us today.
Howdy.
Thanks for joining us. All right. It should be a fun show. Let's do it. All right. So, Booker, let's talk a little bit about putting the lawn to rest for the winter. And we have some questions for you, okay?
Okay.
So here's the first question. What do I need to do to get my warm season grass ready for the winter?
One of the things that Chris need to do now is check your grass out to see what problem you had this summer. So you had in the low spots, in the brown spots in there, and try to control and fix those spots. It could be you had a tree begin to shade it out. Mm-hmm. If you need to remove some of the limbs off there and get more sun down to that, you might want to do that in the fall of the year. Could be a good time to prune trees.
Okay.
And just look over your landscape now and see how your grass look. You might need to re-sod or add some sod. It's a good time to do that now.
Okay, so you can add sod pretty much anytime, right?
Anytime you add sod, you can't sow seeds now.
Right, right. Okay. When should I stop fertilizing my lawn for the summer? And again, we're talking about warm season lawns, right?
Warm season grass, Zoysia, Bermuda grass.
Okay.
One of the things about fertilizing your lawn, it's normally based on a soil test for your phosphorus and potassium. But nitrogen fertilizer on a warm season grass, you probably want to stop probably somewhere close around the last of September. Okay. Be a good time to do that because you don't want to get no new growth in September because it could have an early frost.
Right.
And damage their grass, then you'll be wondering next year why my grass not coming out so soon because it was damaged going into the springtime in the fall because you gave some nitrogen fertilizer. Okay. But hold back on your nitrogen fertilizer probably somewhere close around the last of September. But phosphorus and potassium, based on a soil test, because they can build up in the soil and stay there for a period of time, and nitrogen just leaches itself out of the soil, but it can't give that flush growth, and you don't want to have that growth now, because you never know in West Tennessee when the weather gonna come in strong, cold, whatever it's gonna do.
Yeah, that's always hard to tell.
Hard to tell, yeah.
What about if you had a fescue lawn, though? Could you fertilize your fescue lawn?
Well, fescue is probably a cool season grass. Right. It starts growing probably in September and October, November. This would be a good time to add fertilizer to your fescue lawn now. Just a good time to do that because it just began to grow now. A lot of times you've been sitting still all summer long. You see that now it begin to pick up. Right. And I got some bluegrass at the office. And our turf plot, you begin to show some sign of growth now. Okay. But all summer long, it's been kind of like dormant. Right. That's because it's a cool season grass. Right.
Cool season grass, yeah, and these are hot summers.
Hot summer, yeah, so, hot summer. But it's just excited now. It's finna do some work itself now. It's finna start growing.
It's about to come on in.
It's finna come on in now, yeah.
All right. Now, is it too late to dethatch the lawn? And what do we mean by dethatch first?
A lot of times we have compact soil.
Okay.
You want to go in there and loosen that soil up some. You can rent a machine and run across that grass and loosen that soil up. But that soil can breathe better. A lot of times our soil need to breathe in there because those root systems get compact down in there. Right. Ain't no air getting down in there, so you need to loosen that soil up sometime. So for your warm season grass, I wouldn't do it now. Right. Because you're getting ready to go to sleep. Like you said, when you get ready to go to sleep, you're getting to go rest now. But for your fescue lawn, it's just getting ready to grow now. You can dethatch that right now. And you want to walk across your lawn, just look at it and see what's going on with it. You know, where you had a lot of traffic on there, a lot of compact areas in there. You can tell that by looking at it sometimes, but you haven't done a lot of last 3 or 4 years. This would be a good time to go rent you a thatch, or you can buy one and dethatch that lawn. Okay. And you'll see a big difference in that too. When you do thatch that grass, you get water down to the root system, fertilizer down to the root system, all the things you add to the lawn to get it in there. Okay. I did mine a couple of years ago, and it's really. You
can tell the difference?
Tell the difference.
Okay. Do you have to use a dethatcher? Can you use like a hard rake or something like that? Or?
Well, no, you got a small area or something like that. If I got a small area, I might use a rake or something like that, a garden rake or something to rake across there and trying to loosen it up some. But if I got a large area,
it'd be best to rent one.
For the time's sake, you might want to rent you one there in there. And check with your neighbor sometimes. Y'all might can do it together. If you got a warm, cool season grass.
That's a good suggestion.
So they might want to let's do this together and detach our lawn.
Okay. All right, so this next question is one a lot of people are going to want to know. When should I put down a pre-emerge
Okay, now
you know, in my lawn, because of course, you know, those winter weeds are going to be coming. Your henbed, your chickweed, right? Your dead nettle.
I don't know about you, Dr. Chris. I hate weeds. Weeds. I
actually like weeds.
I like weeds. But when you see that lawn, they get them weeds in there, you can tell because weeds don't how to grow your grass.
Right.
When you see a pre-emerge, you put some down before the weed begin to germinate.
Right,
before they germinate. Probably about the last of September be a good time to do that too. You know, so going to October, put it down there, and most pre-emerge herbicide probably need to be watered into the lawn over period of time. And I try to watch the weather. You know, when they say it's going to rain, you know, then I try to put it down then before they get into the soil, get down to the root system.
Right.
And when doing a pre-emerge, you must cover the whole entire area. You know, you just know you may go up and down crossway and always read the label.
Yeah, read the label.
Tell the you get a complete cover there.
Right.
And to keep those weeds from germinating in the springtime, and also don't want a weed from germinating. And sometimes, you know, if you haven't did it in a period of time, you know, you might not get all your weeds this time. You know, some might be got through there, but put that pre-emerge down, we help control all those weeds. You can see the difference in the summertime.
What's a good pre-emerge that you would suggest?
Maybe something like Dimension or Snapshot or something that you can do that, use that around in there.
Okay.
Read the label, tell me to put down at a certain time and then how much to put down. And if I put it down this way, I probably put half going one way and half going the other way. Make sure I get a complete cover on that the pre-emerge.
Right, and Mr. D did demonstrate that for us before. You know how to do that.
Oh, yeah, so, that's good.
And it's usually on the label of directions.
On the label directions, yeah.
Okay, but yeah, make sure you get that watered in, and those pre-emergence herbicides will help control poa annua.
Oh man,
well. We know how tough poa annua can be.
Man, that poa annua in my yard, man. Ooh, rough.
It is tough. All right, so how low should I cut my warm season grass for winter to keep it from being damaged?
We get that call all the time, though.
Okay.
People want to. It's going to one of months. How low should I cut my grass to make sure that it still do well? Some folks want to cut it real low. I like to keep mine at the same height that I was cutting it during the regular time.
All right.
If it's a 2.5 inch tall, I want to keep it that same height. In there, because you want to try to protect those root system from the cold weather. If you have a hard freeze, protect those root system. Another thing about cutting your grass low now, people don't realize this though. Your root system is still active.
That's right.
Just because the grass done turned brown and dormant in that, that's because the temperature did that.
Right.
But those root systems are very still active in the soil. If you need to, we go through a real dry period now. You might need to water that lawn sometime. I know you might look fun out there in November, but to make sure your lawn come back real strong in the summertime, you need to take care of that during the winter months. Something we just need to do during the winter time. People don't realize, but to keep that grass looking good.
Okay. And speaking of watering, so of course we have to water our lawns, right, in the wintertime.
And do that. No, so like people want to put things up, put the water hose and things up, but you might get them out there and do that, water that grass in the wintertime and stuff in there.
Okay.
But that's very rare though, but it could happen sometime.
Okay. And quickly, Booger, before we stop, there's going to be a program at the turf plot coming up here soon? On
October the 2nd. Yeah, me and you be out there.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll be out there because we just from 9 to 12. It's not a program. You just come by there and get your question answered about the lawn, and then look at our turf plot and pick up information, soil boxes, how to take care of your lawn. A lot of sheets gonna be out there, information gonna be out there. We be out there from 9 to 12, and we'd be glad to see you come by there and answer those questions. Then look at our 10 types of grass that we have out there.
That's right.
And see how they doing. Next year you might want to change your grass out and say, I like this Zoya, I like this Bermuda grass, I like this blue grass. And then depending on what you have, you put some out there. So it's going to be a good program, because you always do a good job out there.
Hey, well, you do a good job as well. And that turf plot, Mr. D, is the best that I've seen. So, Booger's done a real good job with that. So.
It should become an extension. It's great, yeah.
All right, good stuff, man.
Thanks.
All right, so we'll see about putting that lawn to rest, right? So we can get some rest, right?
I need some rest.
All right, thanks, Booger. Appreciate that. There are a number of gardening events going on in the next couple of weeks. Here are just a few that might interest you. All right, Mr. D, let's talk a little bit about pond care, pond maintenance.
The University of Tennessee has a real good publication that if you've got a pond, I encourage you to you can go online and get it like I did and print it off, but it's 50 pages, so you better have plenty of ink. and plenty of paper.
Right.
But it is chock. Do y'all have any of these at the office?
We have a few. Yeah.
You have a few at the office? That'd be what I'd suggest you do. Go by the office and pick one up. But it's just chock full of information about ponds. And ponds require different levels of maintenance depending on what you use your pond for. If it's just for aesthetic purposes and you don't do a whole lot of fishing out of it, then pretty much all you really need to do is keep the bank clean and keep in mind that whenever you put anything in that pond, like if you blow grass into the pond, when it breaks down, it utilizes oxygen that the plankton that can interfere with the food that the fish need. So blow your grass away from the pond when you're or use a mulching system so that you don't blow anything into the pond if you can help it. If you have weeds and need to control the weeds, there are several herbicides depending upon the type of weeds that you have. This is not really the best time of the year to control weeds in a pond. And during the late hot summer, really the springtime is a better time to use herbicides. If you need to and you feel like you have to, don't go out there and treat your whole bank area or around the pond at one time. I wouldn't treat, if they're floating weeds, I probably wouldn't treat over a third of that pond at a time.
Can you give us an example of a floating weed?
Duckweed.
Okay. Duckweed.
And is an example of a floating weed. And I can. There are submerged weeds and then emergent weeds. There's some that grow on the edge of the pond that you can use glyphosate and different different herbicides. I've got several here that I can. On weed control, and that is probably, you guys, is that the #1 call you get?
Yeah, but I know Booker deals a lot with that.
On weeds control and algae in the pond in that area, yeah.
Right, well, some examples of the floating weeds, I mentioned duckweed, water meal, water hyacinth is another floating weed. There's several algae out there, planktonic, filamentous, chara. The submerged weeds would be like water milfoil, naiad, Zeladea, pond weeds, hydrilla, and then the emergent weeds are the ones that are kind of on the edge in shallow water. American lotus, cattail, smartweeds, water primrose, water lily, and willows. And if you have a lot of shallow areas, you're going to have a lot of these emergent weeds. And if you have a pretty steep bank and it goes down to 4 feet, 3 or 4 feet, you're not going to have a lot of these emergent weeds. So you might need to keep that in mind if you're constructing a pond, or if your water gets low and you can do some cleaning out around the pond. But some of you use different herbicides for different kinds of weeds. On the floating weeds that we talked about, you can use 2,4-D, Diquat, or a couple of the more common herbicides that you would use according to label directions.
Sure.
Most of the agricultural chemicals that are out there are not good for ponds, and you don't want even that runoff from an agricultural field to get into a pond. But these herbicides that I'm mentioning have been cleared by EPA, and they are safe for the aquatic organisms, the fish, and things like that. The submerged weeds, again, some of them, the 2,4-D will work on water milfoil. Diquat is pretty much labeled for all of those submerged weeds, and Indothal is another common herbicide for submerged weeds. And then I see Floridone, and I'm just looking.
Right.
I'm on page 19, I think, of this publication.
It's a nice chart.
It has all of these weeds and herbicides listed.
Right. And while you're looking at that, Mr. D, how do you spray for like submerged weeds and some of these other weeds that you're mentioning, though? Just right over the top.
Just put it out in there. But you need to follow the label, and you need to understand how if you're treating a floating weed out there, so you're basically putting a certain amount of herbicide in that pond. You need to know how much water you got in that, how many acre feet of water, and then the back section of this publication, it tells you how to figure that. Let me see if I can find that. Right there, look at that.
Oh, it sure does. How about that?
You know, it has some examples, and it tells you how to do, you know, the algebra that you use to figure, and there's probably you know, a little geometry in there too, you know,
shapes.
But it tells you how to figure how much to put out there, and you can just spray it, you know, with hose and sprayers or anything like that to get it out in the water. The emergent weeds around, you just go around the edge of the pond and spray with your regular, you know, backpack sprayer or sprayer.
Right.
Again, this is not the ideal time of the year to do that. Sure. And keep in mind, if you have a lot of dead material that goes into that pond, as it decomposes, it's going to, you know, take up oxygen. So you might want to try to kind of rake some of that out and you know, put it in your compost pile or something like that.
Yeah, they want the first question we asked for, and how deep the pond. We go out there and look at them, how deep your pond, how many acres do you have, an acre pond or what, 2 acres there. And they'll tell you how when you start using the chemical, how to measure it out.
Right, right. You just need to know that. If you are a serious fisherman, or you're producing catfish in your pond, and then you need to actually do a soil test to collect mud samples from the bottom of the pond, let it dry out, and because you need the pH to be you know between what 5.2 and 6 or something like that. So you might have to lime your pond. You may have to fertilize it because you're fertilizing the algae that the fish feed on. But you only do that if you're very seriously about producing a certain number of pounds of fish from that. If you're just, you know, catching a bass every once in a while, you probably need to do a population survey every once in a while to determine what you've got, and you can do that by seining. You know, y'all got one of the best fish specialists in the country, Ron Blair.
Yeah, Ron Blair
is the UT Extension weed fish specialist. I know he has a lot of other irons in the fire, but you know, he's a good man to go out and put in a pond, let him go around and do some seining to do a fish survey. But you know, you can do that to try to determine whether or not you need to restock, or but you know, if that was the pond was just for aesthetic purposes primarily, and want the grandkids to fish every once in a while, I would keep it mowed, mow around the edge. I'd make sure I have some mosquito fish, or the BTI.
Good point. Yeah.
The BTI in that pond, because they do produce mosquitoes, and snakes there are a lot of water snakes.
I was going to get
so
to that.
That's another reason to mow around the edge. You know, if you let it grow up around the edge, and have you a little bit narrow path going down to the edge, you may have some visitors. You know, and there may be other people that like that little path.
I don't hate them,
but it's a amazing ecosystem. It's its own little ecosystem, and you got water birds and interesting things, that turtles and frogs and things like that are all part of it, and it's pretty neat. But it does require a bit of maintenance. You need one of these books.
Yeah, come by the office and get you one of those books. Myself and Book would be more than happy to help you out. Thank you, Mr. D. It's good information.
All right. We established some time ago that this blueberry had suffered an attack from one of the most damaging critters in the world. It's called a weed eater, and the weed eater did some irreparable damage. So we also a few weeks ago sprayed post. We knew it was going to need another application. It did release some broadleaf weeds here a little bit, and I'm going to pull them up. Unfortunately, there are not many broadleaf herbicides that I can apply around fruits. I'm going to pull these weed eater deterrents out of my way here for a few minutes. Okay, you see we have some very healthy growth. I'm going to remove the dead branches. This is not the time to prune blueberries, but you can prune dead branches anytime. Here I can see the weed eater removed the outer layer of this branch. I have already loaded post herbicide in my sprayer, and I'm going to kill a pretty wide swath here because I don't want this Bermuda grass to mess with my blueberries. We've got this one ready to go. Hopefully it'll make it through the winter without any problems. Hopefully the Bermuda grass up close will die in a few days. I'm going to put the weed eater avoidance mechanism back into place. We should be through until next spring.
All right, here's our Q&A session. Y'all ready?
Ready.
These are some real good questions we have here. Let's start with the first viewer email. I have 2 types of worms attacking my tomato plants. I know the hornworm, but what is the dark worm with the stripe, and where do they both come from? And this is from Miss Mary in Mount Juliet. So 2 types. She knows the hornworm, but what's the other worm?
It's a yellow striped armyworm, I think.
Yellow striped armyworm is what that is.
Okay.
All right, that's what that is. Where do they come from?
They both come from moths,
Yeah.
but not the same one.
Not the same one.
Not the same one,
Okay.
right. The yellow striped armyworm comes from a little brown moth, you know, and it doesn't have a special name. Spodoptera ornithogalley, I can't pronounce that.
Oh, yeah.
It's
good enough.
Spodoptera. Spodoptera is the genus. The tomato hornworm, on the other hand, a tomato hornworm comes from a 5-spotted hawk moth.
It's the hawk moth.
And tobacco hornworm, the Carolina Sphinx
Yep, it's the
moth.
Sphinx
They're a
moth.
real big moth that you see.
And they are big.
Yeah, they're big.
They're
They
big.
look like a, you know, they're probably 4 inches across when they're spread
Oh,
out.
yeah?
And they're pretty big.
They do a lot of damage, huh?
But they're kind of attractive. But you only see them at night.
At night,
You
yeah.
know, most moths are nocturnal. But that's what you got there. And it looks like you see the on the hornworm, all of
Yeah.
the cocoons.
Parasitized.
They've been parasitized by a wasp.
Right,
yeah,
by the
okay.
bracketed wasp.
Yeah,
So
so
I would leave that one alone.
Leave it alone. That's
Miss Mary, I wouldn't worry about that one. That was already taken care of.
a beneficial producing factory.
That's right.
That's good, then.
Yeah. Nice picture though. I mean, you have 2 of those actually on the one plant. I thought that was pretty nice. But if you want to control those, how would you go about controlling them?
Probably one thing you might do a little spray, something to read the labels, like probably like Malathion be a good thing to do on there. Maybe Dipeg, that'd be work on that.
Yeah, I think BT will probably be your best bet. Yeah,
mhm.
Dipel or Javelin would
you
be.
want them there. But it's I think wait a couple of days after you do that before you do another application on there.
Right, right. Yeah, but I'll definitely go with the Dipel.
Dipel probably,
first.
yeah.
Dipel or Javelin, the BT product. All right, Miss Mary, thank you for that picture. Real good picture there. All right, here's our next viewer email. Uh-oh, I knew this was gonna happen this year, right? This question. How do you control cucumber beetles? I don't want to lose my plants. And this is from Miss Barbara via YouTube. It's the old cucumber beetles, Mr. D. You know about those, right?
I assume the plant she's talking about is a cucumber plant.
Cucumber
I
plants.
guess so.
That's
Okay,
what
I would
she's talking
assume so.
about.
I
So
think I would.
I went to the Red Book
Okay.
and pulled a page out of that. And we have several things listed to control the cucumber beetle in our Red Book. And they range from carbaryl to bifenthrin, zeta-cypermethrin, esfenvalerate, malathion, and permethrin. And some of these, you know, you need to follow label directions with any pesticide.
Sure.
I know on the several of these pyrethrins or pyrethroids, you need to wait at least 7 days between application, and that shouldn't be a problem because when you put it out there, it should take them out. Even though the cucumber beetles are fairly strong flyers and they can come back and reinfest, you know, pretty quickly. But
and they're tough too now. You know, they're real tough.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Because in their guts, don't they carry the bacterial wilt?
They can carry
disease?
pathogens that cause other
Right.
problems.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
But there you have it.
Yeah.
All right, here's our next viewer email. I'm growing greens in a raised bed. This year I've had aphid problems. How do I control aphids on my greens? And this is from Sam in Millington, Mr. D. Raised beds. He's growing greens. Sounds good.
You don't have to bend over so far to spray
That's
them.
right. That's right.
Again, I checked with the Red Book.
Okay.
And I have a few things circled here. I have turnip greens. I'm not real sure what kind of greens
Yeah, just the
you had. I
greens,
have
yeah.
turnip greens and mustard greens are the 2 that I found information on for aphids. And with turnip greens, there's only one thing recommended in the Red Book, and that's malathion. Bonide, I think, is the trade name.
yeah.
And with the mustard greens, it has the same malathion listed, but also bifenthrin and zeta-cypermethrin.
Okay.
And with both the malathion and the pyrethroid, you wait at least 7 days between application. Again, follow the label.
Sure.
You know, I would pick my greens and then spray, I guess, and wash them real good. Wash the aphids off of them.
I would.
I mean, protein's protein. You can
Oh,
do extra
man.
Protein's
No, man.
But you know, wait 7 days. You
Right.
can spray. Wait 7 days. Pick again.
Pick
wash
again,
wash them real good.
Oh, God.
You know, get
Protein
your
is protein.
system going there.
I love green, man.
But I'll tell you something else I would do though. Couldn't you just get the hose out and just knock them off? You know, if you just want to go that route.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah, do that. Yeah,
do that.
You could do
Yeah,
that. Well,
do that.
I don't know how quickly they'll come back when you
I
do
don't
that.
know either, but, you know.
Or you could just cut them and wash them off.
Yeah,
Wash 'em off,
do
they're
that.
good.
Yeah. You know, for our organic folks, they might want to consider doing something like that.
Wash them off. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of aphids can do a lot of damage.
Man,
you know,
it's
A lot of damage.
It's an
piercing,
aphid for
sucking
every
mouth
plant,
parts,
right? Just
They-
about.
And they can explode in numbers very quickly.
Oh, no doubt. No
And,
doubt. Booker, anything you want to add to
Now
that?
that sounds good. Like my D said, just make sure it's 7-day waiting period on there before
Okay.
you do it again or spray it harvest those. So when you
Yeah.
do the marathon, I'll just read the label on there to tell you.
Sure, I always read the label. All right, there you have it, Mr. Sam. Yeah, we like the fact you do have them in raised beds. Makes it like easy to get down there and
You
pick
don't have
them
to
and
bend over so far.
yeah, knock those aphids off. All right, Mr. D. Booker, we're out of time. It was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Remember, we love to hear from you. Send us an email or letter. The email address is familyplot@wkno.org, and the mailing address is Family Plot, 7151 Cherry Farms Road, Cordova, Tennessee 38016. Or you can go online to familyplotgarden.com. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us. If you have any gardening questions, ask us. Just go to the website familyplotgarden.com. We look forward to answering them on an upcoming show. I'm Chris Cooper. Be sure to join us next week for the Family Plot, Gardening in the Mid-South. Be safe.